thing I was reading on the book, there was a difference between artificial classification and natural classification.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like struggling a bit to understand the difference between them, because natural, they say it's like similar characteristics, but
No.
artificial, they're saying that it's like also characteristics. But I don't understand like how the difference is between artificial and natural.
Artificial characteristics would be like uh, separating, or artificial classification would be like separating or putting the organisms in different groups on the basis of non-biological features, or the features which are like made by us, but they may not be that much differentiating. Let's say, if we like put a criteria for classification. If we put the locomotion, locomotion mean uh, locomotion literally means the shifting the location, moving from one location to another. It means the locomotion. So
Okay.
if we classify the organisms on the basis of locomotion, what does it mean? Uh, it maybe is a good criteria to separate, let's say, two groups. To separate two groups, but if you consider the locomotion a character between the plants and fungi, the reality is both of them don't move.
Yes.
Both of them don't move. So you cannot consider this criteria within these type of organisms. So what does it mean? You have to come up with the characteristics which can differentiate the organisms, and you have to come up with such a criteria that can be used for multiple types of organisms,
Okay.
not only to separate between the between the plants and animals. Let's say we can take some other characteristics. Let's say let me like let's say eyes.
Eyes.
If I consider eyes to separate to or to like classify the organisms into different groups, it would obviously be a distinguishing feature between animals and other organisms. Obviously, they don't have eyes. Other organisms don't have eyes. But do you consider that possessing an eye would be something like a natural feature? Because like separating the animals on the basis of eye is a bit unnatural, rather than separating them through a feature that is shared by all of them. Let's compare eyes and mode of nutrition.
Okay.
Let's consider eyes and mode of nutrition. Now, which one do you suppose is the better one? Eyes or mode of nutrition? Mode of
I
nutrition? No, I'm answering.
Okay.
Mode of nutrition basically is a criteria that you can check for all organisms,
Yes.
not only for animals. What does it mean? Rather than designing our own criteria, we should be taking the biological criteria. We should be taking the biological criteria to separate the organisms.
Okay.
So, mode of nutrition, like the cellular organization, evolutionary relationship, these are the characters that are common between the organisms, and they separate from each other with a slight difference. It overall means that when you try to classify them, you have to take the character, you have to consider the character that is that can be applied on all organisms rather than only one.
Okay.
Any problem?
So, for example, claws, wings, that's all you'd say in this case, natural, or no, it'd be artificial classification.
uh,
Whereas,
yeah, please.
mode of nutrition and diet and these types of classification, that'd be natural classification.
If some character is shared by many organisms and they differentiate from each other slightly, then it would be a more natural character compared to those which are present in only one organism. Let's say claws are present in birds, as well as reptiles. So
Yes.
you can say that rather than I would put it into some other words, rather than classifying them forcefully, like, okay, these have claws, okay, put them separate, these don't have claws, put them separate. But suddenly what happens, maybe those with the claws and those with no claws may have something in common. What would you do then?
Okay.
So you would have to consider that criteria, that their similarities and their differences should be a bit more natural rather than forcefully created. Okay, I had another particular important thing. Yeah. Now let's say you want to use the presence or absence of clause to classify. Now let's say you are classifying only birds. You are classifying only birds. Now, what does it mean? You can classify on the basis of clause because you have done classifying on the, you can say, natural characters, or the, you can say, or whatever we can say, like you are running out of options. When you run out of natural classification, when you run out of the categories, then you consider the other categories as well. Let's say I am classifying the reptiles, and some of them had large claws and some of them have small claws. Now, I would try and classify them on the basis of clause. What does it mean? That I have the option to consider the clause as a differentiating category, but it is not my first priority.
Okay.
Remember that, like, okay, now let me tell you, there is something that was considered in the very beginning. Um, as I think I already told you, two kingdom classification, when we might have classified the organisms on the basis of movement. Then
Yes.
came some other, you can say, then came the microscope, and we came up with the terminologies of prokaryote and eukaryote. When we came up with these terminologies, we started classifying on the basis of prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Now, what does it mean? Why are we no more considering the movement? Why? Because this is a character that is common. Why so? Is there any organism who does not have a cell?
Apart from no, all organisms have a cell.
All organisms have cells. What does it mean? That they all share one feature, slightly difference in them does exist. Slight difference in that character does exist, but overall they all are possessing that particular feature. So we would classify on the basis of some such characteristics that are present in all of them, but there is a slight difference in them. So that is what we often see, that natural classification means that some character, some biological character is observable in some of them, but those observable, that particular common feature that we are looking at may work some you can say somewhat differently in one type of organism and differently in the other type of organism. So we would say that, okay, all of them are possessing this feature, but this one works like that and this one works like that. So that is a good classification rather than classifying them forcefully on the basis like plants don't have claws.
Yes.
Plants don't, because they don't have claws. Like, what does it mean? They don't have claws. That is just like you say that if a person is dead and a person is alive, you say this person is living and this person is dead, so classify them. It is just like that. So the plants don't have claws because it is not a criteria to classify the plants. Find
Yes.
out the criteria which are really there to classify the plants and differentiate between the animals and plants. And those criteria must be like something that is shared between the animals and plants, but performed differently in plants and differently in animals.
Okay.
Is it fine now?
Yes, sir.
Any particular, if you worry about any other reason, you can come up with that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Are you watching the match, by the way?
I was watching before the class. I was, sir.
Okay, it means you have like seen the batting they have shown.
Yeah, I've accepted defeat, you could say.
That's literally like my feelings are. The feelings are absolutely mutual. Like that's like they have failed. Like totally crashed. The bowling has totally crashed, or I think there is a rain factor that caused this. But if the rain factor caused this to our bowling, then it should have been doing this to the Indian bowling.
Okay.
And if they control our batters, it means that maybe we have failed in both bowling and batting. But yes, okay,
Yes.
it happens. All
Yeah.
right. So coming to a particular topic for today, what was I saying? Okay, this was the artificial characters or artificial classification. So I would like differentiating. I would put a sentence for you over here.
Yes.
The natural classification is based upon the characters that are present in all those organisms under consideration under consideration, but slightly differ. Sorry, slightly differ. By which I just remember a particular example. Like you classify the fish. Now
Yes.
you classify the fish not basically on the basis of what their food type is, but you
Okay.
classify them on the basis of what kind of shape they have, because they have their common feature is the shape, and then like their fins is a common feature. So it means that all fish necessarily are possessing the fins. Some of them are possessing those fins, possessing very small fins, and the other are maybe carrying the very large fins. And then the scales, some are scaly and some are non-scaly. There are scales present on fish, some of them. So
Yes.
you can say that uh, the the example from your side like the claws, the example from my side like the fins and scales, and any other example like the teeth. Okay, let's consider it. Teeth. Now if a scientist or if a person comes forward and he says that since the animals have teeth and plants don't have the teeth, so we are different. This is not a criteria, because there is no possibility that plants would have teeth. So what does it
Oh,
mean? This type of classification would be totally unnatural. You have
unnatural.
to differentiate plants and animals on the basis of something that they both are doing, but differently.
Okay.
Like we come up with a plan that okay, we would classify the plants and animals, but on what basis? Mode of nutrition. The plants are acquiring their food, and animals are acquiring their food. But it is a difference. The plants are acquiring their food on their own,
Yes.
and animals don't. Now, this is a very beautiful difference that basically justifies that okay, both of them are doing it but differently. So, this is natural classification.
Okay.
Now,
Uh,
coming to
one
yeah,
question,
please.
sir. I remember we were doing the example of the comparison between the different groups of monkey species, monkeys and humans.
Yeah, exactly.
And I read in the Cambridge book that they said you could say all natural classifications also are based on polygenetic classifications.
Phylogenetic. Correct
Polygenetic.
this one.
Th- that, that that is a
Mhm.
correct statement, right, sir?
Yeah, that's exact statement. That's right.
Okay.
Because ancestry is a common feature.
Yes.
Like ultimately, if you draw a long tree, you start from here and you keep on dividing the organisms, and what happens that you ultimately reach at this particular organism A, which is a modern one. But the thing is, This thing is common between all of them. No
Yes.
matter how many organisms have been created, how many organisms have survived that all evolutionary time, but the reality is all of them are having this common thing, and they have which is the ancestry. So
And
yes, it is a natural feature.
okay.
All right, coming to the any other question?
No, it's that was clear so far, sir.
Good. Okay, so now we are there on the there are few advantages that are mentioned over there for classification, and those advantages, although don't need our that much of attention, but we'll skim over this. Identification of species is easier. What are the advantages of natural classification? Like if we discover a new species, then number one thing is we can identify them very easily. Why? Because the organisms that we just found, we would try to differentiate them on the basis of something that is quite easily differentiated between the plants and animals. Or like let's say you found a unicellular organism. I would say you found a unicellular organism A having a nucleus in it. Now it
Yes.
is very clear that if it has a nucleus, then it is very clear that they are eukaryotes. Why? Because prokaryotes don't have. So how do we do it? We would say that okay, this would go into eukaryotes, and then we would proceed on, rather than classifying them on the basis of some unnatural category. We would go for very basic and biological based categories, and we would classify them, keep on classifying them, and then we would be using this dichotomous key. I would explain this key later to you.
Okay.
So it means that if we move naturally, it would be an advantage for us. A very straightforward statement. It would be an advantage for us. It would make us classify the things very easily. Then comes, because all of the members of a group in a natural classification evolved from a common ancestral species, they inherit similar characteristics. Now, what is the advantage? Let's say you found you found an animal discovered a new species, an animal that is flying. Okay, now, no, 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 not an animal. You found an organism that is flying. Now, please think and tell me what would be your first assumption.
Okay. My first assumption it would be that it's either a bird, fly, or a bat in this case.
The first assumption is more of a common sense. You are not wrong. The very first assumption, that if I found an organism and that is flying, it obviously is an animal.
Yes.
That is like more common sense. Okay, very next step. It must be, because flight flight means that it may be from birds, or one of the bat, or maybe an insect. Okay, and it's not even a flightless bird. No, it's not even a flightless bird, because obviously we have seen it flying. All right, fine,
Yes.
got it. Then now we would see these two main things, these two main assumptions we have reached just by observing. We haven't captured it yet. We just observed it, and we are creating the assumptions. All right. Now it means you have shortlisted, due to natural classification, you have shortlisted the things. How? Like you could have put it in plants or fungus or maybe other kingdoms. Why didn't you put? Because you had a proper criteria, and that was like animals are like it is only the feature of animals. According to our natural classification, it is only the feature of animals that they can fly. So we have reached automatically to that group. We don't
Yes.
need to go through all the keys, because our system has been developed so much. Now we don't need keys. It was earlier times when the classification, when the subject of classification was like under too much consideration, then the scientists used their keys to classify the organisms. Now we have classified the organism to such an extent that we just need to consider five or seven different characters and we can completely classify the organism. It has been developed so much. So it is easier now to classify rather than earlier times when the subject was developing.
Yes.
Any question?
Just maybe one question to clear up. If we, for example, are analyzing one type of not species but a group of birds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then would flying would be become a natural classification because it's almost present in all the birds, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if we're analyzing like a lot of different animals in a certain area,
Mhm.
then flying would become an artificial classification,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, you
Okay.
can exactly because the others are not even having this feature.
Yes.
It's not like some of them are having and some of them are not. Like if you are considering 5 or 10 groups, you are almost obvious that flight is not present in others. So it means that it would become unnatural to classify them or at least classify them immediately on the basis of flight. You may classify them later when you have reached to when you have shortlisted the organism. You may classify them on the basis of flight later, but not in the very beginning, because in the very beginning you need to consider something that is common between all of them.
Yes.
All right, now once we have seen it, now we would look for it like how is it eating behavior. Eating behavior would also make it very much clear that which kind of animal is it. Okay,
Okay.
eating behavior and then eating the feed. What is it eating? That feed is also matter a lot. So what is it
Yes.
eating? That is also a very important feature. All right. Now this is you. These are some of the features. Like you can easily reach there. They have given an example over here. For example, if a chemical that is used as a drug is found in one plant in a genus, this or related chemicals are likely to be found in other species in the genus. This is basically called as inductive reasoning. This is called as in biology or in scientific method or even in philosophy, it is called as inductive reasoning. What is inductive reasoning? Inductive reasoning is that finding one character in particular types, finding one character in
Particular
particular
type.
type and applying it to the whole group, particular individual, and applying it to the whole group. Let's say if a person moves out of the country and he moves somewhere and he shows his honesty, then the people would say that this country, the men from this country are very much honest, and vice versa, obviously. So this
Yeah.
is like experiencing one person and applying your opinion to all of them. This is inductive reasoning, and what they are doing basically over here, like if you find one drug in some plants of one species, one genus, like if you find a particular acid in onion. Now what is the genus of onion? The onion's genus is allium.
Alien. Okay.
Allium. Now this allium maybe is a genus for garlic as well. It is also for the keel. No, not the keel. I have pronounced it opposite. Leeks. And maybe some other organism as well. So what would you say that that particular chemical A is also may also be present in the rest of the genus individuals. So it is
Yes.
also the inductive reasoning. Like if you found that a drug is being produced by a certain plant, we would say that it must be belong to that group.
Okay.
And then, um Okay, we could make many predictions about it with reasonable certainty that they are correct. The bat will have hair, mammary glands, placenta, four-chambered heart, and many other mammalian features. So we would not put the bat into the birds.
Yes.
Okay, what is a dichotomous key? Now, let's say you have many organisms. Basically, first of all, understand what is a dichotomous. Dichotomous mean that something is being divided into two. On the basis of one feature, it is being divided into two. This is what the dichotomous is. Now, let's say you are basically you are doing construction of dichotomous key for the use. So this basically is going to be one of the very important concept. uh, like you can yourself classify, if you understand this concept, then you would be able to classify different organisms on different organisms just by looking at them.
Okay.
You may find these organisms in the what I was saying. You may find some organisms in your backyard, or like somewhere in the garden, and you are trying to classify them. So if you find those characters properly, then it would be easier for you to classify them using the dichotomous key. So
Okay.
let's study this example. Fore and hind limbs visible can emerge on land. Okay, so what is this? This is, okay. Now tell me,
This
these,
are
just by looking at these two features, what do you suppose we are doing? We are classifying what?
the sea and the land animals.
Well done. So it means that it can emerge on land. So we are basically differentiating between the fish or aquatic organisms and terrestrial organisms.
Yes.
Okay, let's proceed on. If it can emerge on land, you have to go to the second point, and if they cannot emerge on land, then you would go to point 6. Let's move to point 2. Forelimbs and hind limbs have paws. Okay, good. Forelimbs and hind limbs have flippers. If they would have flippers, then it must be uh, an amphibian,
Yeah.
because, like, obviously, it would be like frog from the frog family. Fore and hindlings have paws. Okay, let's move to 3. If they have paws, fur is dark, they must be sea otters, and the fur is white, they must be polar bears. And if they have flippers, then we would have to move to 4.
Four. Okay.
External ear flap visible, sea lions and fur seals. No external ear flaps, so you would have to move 5. Now, what you are looking at, first group was like this. Then we started doing dividing them.
Yes.
We started dividing them. This is what we call as the dichotomous classification. Dichotomous key, not classification, dichotomous key. So this is what we are supposed to do in this, and they have given us a bit of data for the practice. Keys are usually designed for use in a particular area. All the groups of species that are found in that area can be identified using the key. Now they are giving us some of the organisms and their feet. So, all right, let's see. These are for,
Footprint.
this is a bird. This is a bird. Obviously, we can guess that, but let's try out the characteristics.
Okay.
Okay. Mm, First of all, maybe that organism like has claws.
Yes.
Wait up. Let me
Okay.
take the call. All right, sorry. So we are here. We are saying that okay, um, the they are in the shape of paws. Shape of paw.
Pause.
Okay. Let's say move to one, and then no paw shaped. So we would say move to two. All right.
Yes.
Let's say paw after saying that paw is there. Like what would we say next? Mm,
Maybe we could say the shape of the paw, like you see, like the bear and the fox. It's not circular, right? It's like oval almost.
bear and fox. These are,
I
and
was
they
thinking,
are like circular ones,
yeah,
almost a circle shaped. So I would say, or maybe oval, a bit oval. We would
yes,
say paw oval shaped. So we would say that we would say go to four.
yes,
Okay. Then we would say that the four limb. Actually, it should be the four limb. What would we say? This? Footprints. Okay.
footprint.
Footprints. Footprints. Uh, okay. Wait up.
Yeah,
Footprints divided into or divided by, let's say divided by three bones. Move to did we write four over here? No, not four. Okay. Which one was the okay. One. This is one. This is
yes.
two. Then we should have given this the number three.
Okay,
Hang on. This is one. Yeah, this is two. Okay, this is two. Then one, two, then three. So I would say I would write three over here. Paw oval shape three, and footprints divided by three bones
foreland.
four. Okay.
Yes,
Paw oval shaped. Uh, if it is no, we have done one mistake over here. Wait up. We should have not written this one as two. It can be like this is footprints, and then the second this paw oval shaped, and then the second one should be uh, non-oval shaped, or we would say yeah, paw non non-oval paw, or we would say non-oval. Then we would write four. Okay, let's ignore the rest of the paws first. Let's not write these.
okay,
And let's not put the numbers over let's not put the number in front of it. We would okay, shape of paw. Okay, one paw oval shape, then go to three, and paw non-oval shape, it would be four. What
yeah.
are the non-ovals? Only this one and
This one for fox.
fox. It also may be a bit of oval shape, by the way, but no. Okay, I would say
Oh,
that
maybe we could say paw circular shape, or
circular shape. I would suggest that let's if we say that it is oval, it is oval, then we can say that we can differentiate the bear. Let's say if I said oval, if it is oval, then it is a bear. If it,
yeah.
I'm sorry, if it is not oval, if it is not oval, we would say it's a bear.
Okay,
It's a bear. Then let's not write three over here. Let's move to two. Okay, what would be the second feature? Second feature was what I thought. that paw having, okay, yeah, four four toes, four-toed paw. If it is four-toed paw, then we would say move to 3. And if it
Ye-
is two-toed paw, two-toed paw, then it would be fox. Got that?
yes.
Okay. Let's move to the third one. Now, these are 3. Okay. Uh, paw with pointy ends. Go to 4. Paw with no pointy end,
Cat.
cat. All right. Now we are going to the fourth one. It's,
We would differentiate the bottom part, right? Yeah.
yeah, that would be the palm.
Palm.
Palm covering the palm covering the footprint, or we would say palm complete palm. Okay, yeah, we would write it like that. Complete palm or incomplete palm.
Okay.
Do we say palm? What do we say? Is it palm? Palm?
Yeah, it would be palm in this case.
Okay. So complete would be the dog, and incomplete would be the wolf. So this is how the shapes are made. Now you would not be asked to draw a complete lineage, but maybe not lineage, the dichotomous key, but maybe you would be given some of the shapes. Much of those would be filled for you, and the rest of it you would have to fill them.
Okay.
Like you would not have to do it completely.
Yes.
All right. It is a very beneficial feature.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the plants. This is something that they are actually trying us to make. They are actually trying to make us understand that we should be able to externally classify different kinds of organisms, and these are very important. I would solve some of them for you, and rest of them I would give you as like homework.
Yes.
Now, some are basically there are, if I do it myself, basically, what happens when it comes to the plants? When it comes to the plants, the most common feature is the photosynthesis. Remember, okay, let me put another feature: photosynthesis, multicellularity, multicellularity. These two are the main reason for an organism being called as a plant.
Okay.
Are you getting this?
Yes, sir.
Like if an organism is being called a plant, it means it should have at least these two features.
Yes.
Okay, now within plants, we have a bit differences. Some plants are called as tracheophytes,
Tracheophyte.
and some plants are called as bryophytes. The one and the very major difference between them is that they possess the xylem phloem. So it is looking like a dichotomous key, and
Yeah.
they don't have xylem phloem. Now you can understand that even there are plants that are surviving without xylem phloem, and not all plants possess that.
Yes.
Okay, now these two are major groups, and these let's say these are still then would be you can say classified. Let's say the tracheophyta group would have I would see some of the names from here. Felicynophyta,
Philistine.
Trachophyta, yeah, Felicynophyta in them, and then uh, Angiospermophyta and Coniferophyta. Angiospermophyta and Coniferophyta. All right. Um, what are the meaning of all these words? I don't want you to get scared, so I just want to make you understand the meaning of the word Felicynophyta. uh, by the way, I literally, the meaning I have forgotten. Wait up. Hmm,
No fighter.
etymology of Felicino. Phyta means plant, that I know. So
Yes.
Felicino. uh, this category may explain this. Um, okay, I'll visit that later. All right. A phylum under kingdom Plantae. They are spore-producing vascular plants. Okay, I would say that. Wait up. I can differentiate them.
Yes.
Felicynophyta are those which are non-seed producing.
Okay.
Non-seed producing, and these are seed producing.
Sir, I
Hmm.
think they also do it in the book as well. They give the differences.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, I was actually basically trying to classify them on my own, because
Okay, okay.
this
Sorry,
table
sir.
looks a bit, you can say, bit.
Complicated.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
understood.
So that is why I was just basic doing the basic classification.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then these are seed producing, and then there are the rest of the classes. You can put like these are, I would say that this is the level that I have been describing. Basically, kingdom is the Plantae, and phylum, I guess that these are phyla: Felicynophyta, Angiospermophyta, and Coniferophyta.
Yes.
And then there are families. After that, there would be families that we would be studying, and bryophytes also have the some of them. So let's see: Felicynophyta, Coniferophyta, and Angiospermophyta. Now, this is common that these are common feature. Obviously, these are differentiating features. Now, look at the Felicynophyta. This would make you understand what the punctuated equilibrium basically is. They are sharing some of the characteristics from bryophyta and some of the with the rest of them.
Yes.
What does it mean? That they are basically a link present between these two types of groups. We would say that these both can be classified in one group, and that is, as I mentioned, Tracheophyta.
Tracheophyte.
So if I say that Bryophyta and Tracheophyta have a punctuated equilibrium group, and that is Felicynophyta.
Yes.
All right. So what are the differentiating categories? Differentiating characters actually have something like this: vegetative organs, the organs that don't perform sexual reproduction. So this is the vegetative propagation, and then vascular tissue, and after that, cambium, pollen, ovules. Okay, now you may look at the rest of the categories that are mentioned over here, the rest of the details, but I basically am trying to explain these categories. Basically, you would understand all of them if you know these categories.
Okay.
Vegetative organs are all those organs which are non-reproductive, which means no sexual reproduction occurs in them, like leaf, stem, and root. So
Okay.
all the plants would have, even all the organisms have vegetative organs. What does it mean? They possess such organs which are not involved in the reproductive process. And then, so vegetative organs are root, stem, and leaf, and then vascular tissue. Vascular always means transport.
Yes.
So wherever you read the word, whether it is in animals or in plants, Wherever you read this word vascular, it means transport. So vascular tissue obviously would be xylem and phloem. Then comes the cambium. They are explaining it, cells between the xylem and phloem. Basically, you can say these are immature cells.
Immature.
Cambium are immature, and you can say that they are ready to become xylem or phloem.
Okay.
Like if either of them die, if either of them die, it would become xylem or phloem. Cambium are, or in other words, unspecialized cells.
Okay.
Then comes the pollen. I guess you know about it.
Yes.
Hmm. All right. Then ovules. Okay, what are ovules? You know about the seeds. Okay, and then the fruits. Now ovules. What are the ovules? Ovule basically is, let's say, have you ever studied the reproductive shape of the female organ?
Of the plant, yes, the
Yeah.
ovulate.
So, like, a bit about the ovule.
Yes, it's the ovule is where the female plant produces the fertilizing cells, the daughter cells, right? And
Yeah,
then the bee transports the male sperm from the top of the cell, and when it transfers or when it gets pollen from male to female, you could say when it gets when the bee lands on the female cell, it has these sperms, and the sperms transport the male sperm to the female ovary.
exactly. This is egg. This part is ovary. Pollen comes from here, and this outer covering is basically the ovule.
Okay.
This outer covering is the ovule. Ovule is defined as something that possesses the egg or ovum.
Yes.
And there is another information about it. It becomes a future seed. In future, after fertilization, it becomes a seed. Okay. Now these are the categories. You should read the rest of these to understand that what are they saying and how they are being classified. All
Okay.
right. Now this there comes the animal phyla. All right. The thing about the animal phyla is their complexity, basically. Like if I tell you that, then there is a huge degree of complexity difference, or let me tell you, like the animal group goes from very simple to very complex, very simple to very complex organisms, and they have 23 different phyla. And basically, what are the criteria? Whenever we consider the animal classification, we don't only consider their external characters, but their embryonic features are also discussed. Embryonic
Okay.
features. So I would tell you that over here, that how they use the embryonic features. First of all, let's get to this data. Porifera. These are sponges. Sponges you may have seen or you may not have seen, but the sponges are literally the organisms that actually have the cavities. You know why we call a sponge as a sponge?
Uh, it's because of the structure, right? It's like it doesn't have a bone, skeletal. Jellyfish, they don't have the. It's very slimy, and when you press it,
Or like it has spaces.
spaces. Okay.
It has a lot of spaces, and obviously the skeletal feature would also be considered. Like when we study the lungs, we say that our lungs are spongy. It
Yeah.
means that they have that open spaces in them. They have the capacity to take in a lot of blood, and they have the capacity to take in air as well. So they have cavities. Okay, so they are porifera because they have cavities in them, and they cannot live out of water, because they only have one thing to which they through which they can exchange the stuff. Like if you put them in the out of the water, if you put them out of the water, they would immediately die, because all of the water present inside the sponges would evaporate and they would be dehydrated, they would die. They have to live inside the water, and their blood is the water around them. The
Okay.
water that is present um, inside them, that is basically their blood. So um, they give their waste materials to the water goes outside, and then the new water comes inside. What does it mean? Their whole their part that performs the role of blood is the water. So
Yes.
they have to be there inside the water. Then comes the Cnidarians are basically some organisms that have a particular organ called as NIDA, CNIDA. It basically is an organ that stings.
Stings. Okay.
So on this basis, we call them Nidaria, sorry, and they have these features. Tentacles arranged in rings. Tentacles basically arranged in rings, and these rings basically are called as nida. So that is why they are called as nidaria. Got it?
Okay. So the Nigeria, it's the any like you would say electrical current or some type of current that passes through.
Yeah,
So jellyfish, eels, these types of animals.
yeah, and they don't have any sort of skeleton. Another important thing. Let me tell you that these organisms, especially these ones, Porifera, Nidaria, Platyhelminths, and I guess no, these three types, they use water as their skeleton. Can
Okay.
you process this statement?
Water
Wa-
as a skeleton.
Hmm.
So they adapt their shape depending upon the water. So when they're out of land, they're like you could say like decomposed or not
Exactly.
decomposed. Yeah, because if you see a jellyfish on land, it's like almost like a plate, but in the
It's like a
water,
plate.
it's like
Hmm.
it has its fully structure in the water.
Exactly. Like they maintain their shape like a balloon.
Yes.
If you fill the water in the balloon, then it would be in its shape, and if you remove it, obviously it would be there would be no shape of it. So this is why they are water-based skeleton. Okay, mollusca. Mollusca basically, okay, no, platyhelminths. This is a particular word, and these are basically two words. Platy. Platy means flat. They are totally flat. What is the meaning of it? Like if you take uh, an air
Yes.
filled balloon, and you push it towards the ground, uh, it would become a flat balloon, a bit somewhat flat balloon. So these kinds of organisms, they are flat, totally flat. It basically means that they are, you can say, they would look like a page. A page has, like, there is no thickness in the page. There is no thickness in the paper, so they don't have any thickness in them. So these are called as flat surfaces or flat.
Okay.
Got the idea?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then comes the next word, helminth. This is I would actually, why am I explaining this? I will tell you. Helminth means warm, and there is a whole huge field that the doctors study, helminthology.
Terminology. Okay.
Helminthology is basically a field where they study the helminths, and especially those helminths which cause the diseases in us.
Okay.
Then comes the mollusca. Molluscans basically are soft organisms, and they are very much, you can say, they are very much specialized. The rest of the groups that are mentioned above, they are not that much specialized, but these groups are specialized. The mollusca and the next one, Annelida. and the next one after it, arthropoda.
Okay.
These are literally too much complex compared to the above three.
Yes.
So these have very much better type of body. Annelida, basically these are very much specialized, and they have, like, if I create an annelid, it would look like this. They may look like worms, but they are like this. They have
Second.
segments on their bodies. So, and then arthropoda, I have told you a bit about them.
Yes.
So you can do the, like, you can even create the dichotomous key from here. You can create a dichotomous key as a dichotomous key. Like, you can just create those having no skeleton. So you can then classify them. Then comes the soft skeleton. Then
Yes.
comes the shell made of CSO3. So all of these are like something, some important features, and you can use them for your dichotomous key. Okay. Any particular problem?
No, but we do. I don't need to know these by heart, right? In the question, they would give us like the differences, and I make a key for it.
uh,
Oh,
or or they would ask you to classify, they would ask you to guess their features. I would suggest that you should be knowing at least the these three categories. Don't memorize them. Just try to be more just try to know them categorically. What does it mean? Like, try to divide them on your own.
okay.
Once you try to divide them on your own, it would be like, easier for you, but you don't have to memorize. You don't have to memorize. All
Okay.
right, here we are. 43 score with 2 losses. Well done, great. 11th over. For God's sake, just don't just don't lose with a lot of margin. That feels a bit more insulting. All right. Uh, Coming to the next part, that is vertebrates. So now it has been differentiated from the rest of the group because the previous ones had no vertebral column. Now these are vertebrates. They have their backbone. These are the organisms that they are showing for the previous page, the invertebrates one. Okay, so you
Yes.
can see their diagrams. Although, like, now the vertebrates are here. These are like we mostly know, um, and number one, bony ray-finned fish. This is something like, what is ray-finned or something? I just don't want to explain too much. Bony ray-finned. Bony is actually for the skeleton, and ray-finned. These are specially made fins. I'll just show you that here.
Okay.
Ray fin. Uh, these are some, like, these are the rays. These are the rays actually they are saying, referring
Yes.
to. These are the rays. These are the rays. The ray fin fish. So these are the rays, and their skeleton is bony, so it is not easy to eat them. All right, ray fin fish, and all of these are like then amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. I have shown you. Now there are no limbs and tetrapods with pentadactyl limbs. Pentadactyl means 5 toes, and then how the sperms are released. Everything is present, so you can consult these characters all. Okay.
Okay.
Now coming to the cladistic approach. Okay. Now let me give you a very clear idea. about how different classification they basically have contradictory portions. The very first classification was taxonomical. Taxonomical classification was natural. It is natural, but you can say it is um based on only similarities and differences and no ancestry.
Okay, no ancestry.
Yeah. Then came the second one, the phylogenetic, which literally involved the ancestry. First, second, third. Third is the cladistic approach. The cladistic approach basically classifies on the basis of ancestry, as well as it tends to remove the it tends to remove taxonomical taxa. What does it mean? You would lose the taxonomical hierarchy: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. All of these are not considered in cladistic approach. They believe, the scientists who believe in the cladistic approach, they often say that if an organism is classified on the base of clade, what is the clade? I'll tell you. On the base of clade, we would not no more be needing these taxa, because according to it, all of the organisms would become the descendants of their previous one.
Yes.
Let's say there is a grouping. The first, sorry, let's say there is the first cell on earth. It got developed into two categories. This one was prokarya, this one was archaea. Oh, it's not writing. Okay, archaea, and this one is eukarya.
UK.
Now this is your ancestor. Now after that you would perform a very long classification, all the classification, and ultimately you would reach the fish.
Yes.
After the fish, you may have a group. You may have a group that turns into amphibians.
Amphibians.
Then from amphibians you would find a group that would turn into reptiles, and from reptiles you would have two categories: birds and mammals, and so on. Now, do you feel you don't have any particular type of kingdom or phylum, etc.? All are the descendants. All are the descendants. Now, the important thing about this is they only prefer the cladistic approach, which means they only prefer the ancestral, the uh, mm, they only prefer the ancestral approach. They only prefer the evolutionary approach. So
Okay.
that is why we often say that they are sometimes right or sometimes they can be wrong, because it's not easy to classify that much. It's not easy to classify organisms. Sometimes their ancestor, you classify the organism into such categories that sometimes their characters are not, you can say, yeah, their characters are not similar, but because of their you can say ancestor, you have to put them along.
Okay.
Just like the approach you told me for the bats and birds.
Yes.
Like if an organism, I'm sorry, if a scientist classifies the organisms, and that classification is not considering the characters, only the ancestors, like even then you cannot put them in the same category. Why? because DNA analysis of bats tell us that the bats are no more near the birds.
Yes.
So there is something else. But yes, sometimes two different organisms having no current similarity between them have to be classified in the same group.
Thank you.
I can create another the same map in another way. This is actually called as a cladogram. This is the lineage. This is the
Okay.
lineage. You would separate one group from here, and it may get separated on in some other groups afterwards. Then like this, then this, this, and this, and in the end, let's say over here, this is a group of fish. Then from the fish, you separate fish over here. Now after it, there are amphibians. Then come the very next group. The amphibian gets separate, and very next group is the reptiles. Now the reptiles are made. You know that after the reptiles, one lineage become the birds and other becomes the mammals. Now, what
Okay.
does it mean? It means that the birds and mammals are the descendants of the reptiles, and like they are not considered to be some major groups. They are just considered to be the descendant of the reptiles, which means that they would be classified somewhere under the reptiles.
Yes.
So that would look like, yeah, that you are classifying the reptiles, birds, and mammals in the same group. So
Okay.
it disturbs the scientist that it would make the things difficult to study. Basically, there are two or three aims of classification. One is to easily identify the species. If
Yes.
you consider the advantages that we studied in the previous chapter, in the very beginning of the lesson, that we need to identify the newly discovered species very easily. If you don't consider the taxonomical approach, which is based only upon the similarities and differences, then it would become too much difficult to classify the organisms, because they would not be classified on the basis of straightforward features, similarities and differences. They would only be classified on the basis of ancestral approach. Now who is better? In my personal approach, it is not written in your book. In my personal approach, the best ones are the phylogenetic ones. They do feel a difficulty, but they are best ones. Why? They consider the taxonomical approach as well as the claristic approach, and they combine them. How?
Okay.
They would put the organism, they would try to put the organism in such a fashion where their ancestors would be common and their features would be similar.
Yes.
So it would be better to consider the characters as well as ancestors, rather than only considering the characters or only considering the evolutionary relationship.
Okay.
You got that?
So the version you're saying is that they also consider what we discussed before, the leaner scientist of
Yeah.
what's it called,
Taxonomical approach, basically.
taxonomical approach, rather
Hmm.
than in this case, what we're doing is we're doing artificial classification more.
Not that much. It is natural. No, no, no.
It's natural.
The cladistic is not artificial. They only focus on the ancestry and evolutionary relationship.
Yes.
They don't classify the organism on the basis of the similarities and differences. Just analyze the DNA, find out the ancestral similarities, and then just put them according to ancestral lineages.
Okay. So in this ancestral lineage, we're saying that, for example, I think so. We discussed the orangutan. It's not so similar to the human, right?
Yeah.
But since it has common ancestor, it would in this case, in this clade, it would be
Mhm.
placed with the humans. We're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay. But
So
in the
that,
case of the
hmm
one you're saying, I forgot the word of it now.
cladistic or phylogenetic.
The phylogenetics.
Mm.
In the case of phylogenetics, we would not have the orangutan as the same group as the human and chimp, right? We'd have
Exactly,
them
exactly.
separate. Okay.
Hmm. So there is something. Although, like, basically, that these three different approaches are basically modernizing and making the classification more and more beautiful. Why? Because they all are basically working on their way, and like even the phylogeneticists do not have to work on their own. Why? Because the taxonomists are doing their work and cladistics are doing their work, and they combine the work of both. So,
Okay.
like phylogeneticists are always getting the benefit of their research of taxonomists and cladistics. So they combine their work and they try to classify them according to their ancestry as well as their features, their characteristics.
Okay.
So,
And but
mhm,
this clades. So we could to sum it up, we could say clades is like a show. It's like used for evolutionary. So
exactly.
the punctuated equilibrium, that is a clade, for example.
Or you can like change your sentence otherwise, like the clade or cladistic basically based on punctuated equilibrium.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically its roots are punctuated equilibrium or gradualism.
Gradualism.
So what is a clade basically? The clades are a group sharing the common ancestor. Now what does it mean? The clade can be as small as two different species. Let's say there are two different species of plant. One is Allium cepa, and the other one is Allium. What was the name of garlic? Okay, let's leave it garlic. So they both having same genus.
Yes.
Now it means that if they are close enough, we would call them a clade because they are sharing the same ancestor. Remember the same genus name, the same initial name tells us the the same
Same
initial
genus.
name tells us the ancestry. They have if they have same genus, then it means that their ancestors were common.
Yes.
So it means that if there is same genus between the Canis familiaris, which is a dog, and Canis lupus, which is a wolf, it means that their ancestors were
The same.
same, and they are not very much far in history. That is the important point.
Okay.
Like all the ancestors of all organisms are same. That is no doubt. Ancestors of all organisms are same, but their you can say um, ancestors of all organisms are same, but we would name the genus name the genus of, like, we would keep the genus of those organisms same to same whose ancestors are very much close in the history,
Okay.
like all of the life tree. It projects us towards the common ancestry.
Yes.
All of the organisms are from the same origin, but we would not say that we would keep the genus name of all organisms same. The same genus name would only be given to those organisms who have their ancestors very close in the past.
Okay.
Very close in the past. Did you get it?
So the genus, it shows that the ancestry is the same. But
Mhm.
if the ancestry is the same, but you could say that the species differentiate quite a lot, then we
Mhm.
don't use the same genus, right?
Or you can say, like, let me clarify it for you. Let's say that there is a cladistic tree over here, and let's say this is species A and this is A star. These
Okay.
are these are having a common ancestor very near in the past, in the history of life. So we would give them same genus. But if you
Okay.
talk about like ancestor of this animal and this animal, it is this one. So
Yes.
you cannot give them the same genus name because their ancestor, although is same, but it's not in the recent past. So you
Recent.
would not give them the same name. Now, what I was saying, that Allium cepa and the garlic are having the same clade. Why? Because their ancestor is same. But
Yes.
what about if you consider all of them? If you talk about the clade, The whole life forms are a clade. Why? Because ultimately their ancestor is
One.
common.
Yes.
Yes. So a clade is basically defined as all organisms that have been originated from the same ancestor. So all the organisms on this earth can be a clade, and only two organisms can also be a clade.
Okay.
Like the example of A and A star I showed you, they
Yes.
are a clade because they are sharing a common ancestor. But this one, the A star, and this one, and the all organisms between them, they are also a clade because their ancestor is the same one over here. So the clade is basically a very wide approach.
Okay, so if just for example, for the orangutan, chimpanzee, and the
Hmm.
human and chimpanzee, you can say they're more recent, like ancestors to each other,
Hmm.
whereas the chimpanzee it will be higher above in the clade, and as a result, we would not put it as the same genus as the chimp and the human.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay,
like the genus is maybe the two concepts would be mixed, so I would describe it a bit. Please focus.
okay,
Okay, if I create a tree over here. All right, let's say this is a species Q, this is a species R, this is a species S, and this is a species T. Talking about the genus name, the genus name for S and T can be same,
yes,
and Q and R can also be same. But the genus name, let's say I give the name A over here, B over here, and X over here, and Y over here. The genus name for S and A cannot be the same. Why? Because their ancestor is not the recent past.
yes,
Okay. Similarly, I cannot give the same genus name to B and A. Why? Because their common ancestor is not being shared. It has a different ancestor and it has a different ancestor, although a bit an ancestor that is a bit far away is being shared between A and B, but their genus name cannot be the common one.
okay,
The-
okay. Yeah, now it's clear, sir, with the cladogram. They
yeah.
have to have the same ancestor basically at the same time.
Hmm. Hmm. Then coming to the clade, the last thing that I wanted to share, like a clade can be S and T. It can be as small as S and T. They are a clade, and
Yes,
it can also involve A, B, X, Y, Q, R, S, T. Why? Because all of them are sharing this common ancestor.
okay,
So naming them and putting the common genus name on them is a different approach. It depends on the very recent ancestor. But clade can be as small as two organisms having very recent ancestor, and all organisms on this world sharing one common ancestor. So clade can be very small and very large.
yes,
Got it?
yes, sir. It can be. We can use a class to just differentiate two species, or we could
Hmm.
differentiate a lot of species.
Yeah. So that is what the things are, how the things are, and